Tonight on CTV3 News, we'll tell you what you should do if targeted by virtual kidnapping scams while in Quintana Roo, Mexico. We got expert advice and safety tips. Also, we bring you the story of a woman and daughters who faced a suspicious police encounter in Chetumal. The embassy intervened amid vehicle irregularity investigation. And an elderly American is found dead aboard a drifting catamaran near Belize. An investigation is underway. And in some positive news, Belize advances STEM education with landmark partnership to expand robotics and digital skills training nationwide. These are some of the stories we have for you tonight in our newscast for Wednesday, March 11th, 2026.
From whiskeys and wines to elegantly crafted cocktails. Paired with charcuterie boards and perfectly seasoned steak bites, and much more. Perfect for celebrations, quiet nights, and every special occasion in between. 7 Notes Wine and Spirits, where every sip hits the right note.
ExpressNet now has up to 400 megabytes of high-speed internet. Choose the speed that fits you, from faster browsing to faster gaming. Connect more devices at once, or bundle it with Express Plus and HBO Max. Internet and streaming entertainment, all in one.
Yeah, faster starts here.
Sign up today at any Centaur office or contact us to get started.
They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say.
The way some people are talking you'd never know, but the most blatant nepotism and fleecing of BTL took place under UDP when Dean Barrow was Prime Minister. Barrow placed his son Anwar on BTL's board in 2009 as soon as he nationalized the company, which would eventually cost Belizeans almost $650 million for shares barely worth $200 million. By 2014, Anwar was appointed executive chairman with extravagant salary and perks. Under him, BTL spent wildly on ventures that did not materialize and never brought any returns. Under the Barrows, BTL's profits plummeted from $38 million in 2009 to $17 million in 2019, and $10 million in 2020, as the company hardly paid dividends to government and people of Belize. Anwar Barrow has no moral authority to talk about BTL, as it was under his nepotistic rule, appointed by his father, that BTL was most blatantly fleeced.
They got so much things to say right now. They got so much things to say.
We recently formed MOUs with the American Hotel and Lodging Education Institute, which is the education arm of the American Hotel and Lodging Association, and also with the American Culinary Federation to do culinary training. We're here to celebrate our accomplishments. And this is not about replacing Belizean cuisine. This is about We want the Belizean cuisine. We want the Belizean richness and diversity, right? So this is about your skills. You all know what you all learned, so it's about transferring that skill.
We want to inspire this career because, you know, it's amazing. You love what you do, right? And it really is something that I think we can inspire other young Belizeans to undertake. And it's now part of your responsibility as those who have received this training and see a pathway for greater things.
Just to put it into perspective, there's only about 6,000 certified executive chefs in North America. There is only 69 certified master chefs in the world. There is less than 10 certified executive pastry chefs in this entire world. And now in Belize, we have 3 sitting in this room.
When speed matters, every second counts. Get ahead with ExpressNet. Fast, reliable, ready when you are.
Good evening with your news also simulcast on Face FM 106.7. I am Joanna Rodriguez. Last night we told you about the 3 Belizean nationals from here in the north, 2 women from San Pablo in Orange Walk and a man from San Narciso in Corozal, who were safely reunited with their families after experiencing what is being described as a virtual kidnapping ordeal in Chetumal, Mexico. The individuals, ages 24, 18, and 25, visited Chetumal to attend a graduation ceremony when they became targets of the scam. Initial accounts indicated that the group had been kidnapped while traveling by Uber. However, authorities later clarified that no actual abduction took place. Instead, the incident was identified as a virtual kidnapping, a deceptive tactic that, although relatively new to Belize, is prevalent in Mexico and other regions worldwide. But that is not the first time that the Belizean faces an incident such as this one. According to Ambassador to Mexico, Oscar Arnold, there is a case where an elderly Belizean woman received threatening calls over WhatsApp after attending a dentist appointment.
Event to this one, the last event to this one that I am aware of, an individual contacted me as the ambassador here in Mexico City, stating that her mom was in Chetumal and that she was receiving these messages. They were calling her on WhatsApp, telling her that her life was at risk if they didn't pay this. So we backtracked a little bit, speaking to the individual on the phone, and they went over there for a dentist appointment. And somehow the number became compromised and it fell into the hands of the wrong individual, and they were making the call and making these threats over the phone. And I can, putting myself in their situation, I can understand why people would be scared, and their first intention would be to try to pay to get out of any situation. However, local police here in Mexico City, as well as in Chetumal, they are aware of these cases, and the first thing they ask is that you contact them. They have their cyber crimes unit where they can put traces, where they can trace bank accounts that are provided for the deposits to be made and that sort of thing. So they're well aware of this situation and they're well equipped to deal with it. However, if no formal complaint is made, if no formal report is done, then there's very little that the authorities can do. In that instance, I assured the individual that her mom was safe, and that when she was ready to leave, that they should just leave and go back when they're finished with their appointment. Nothing became of that situation because, again, it was just someone calling that got a hold of their number randomly and calling to threaten them. And if you deposit 1,000 pesos. They're ahead of the game because that's 1,000 pesos that they did not have prior to the call.
Virtual kidnapping involve perpetrators using phone calls, threats, and intimidation to convince victims or their families that a person has been taken hostage. The scam's aim is to extort ransom payments despite the victims being physically unharmed and often unaware of the fraud. According to Ambassador Arnold, there are certain steps one can take to avoid falling victim to these scammers.
That we have to be very careful whenever we travel anywhere. We are aware of these situations now. Uh, don't answer unknown numbers when you're traveling like this. Always ensure that you have a means of communication that you can communicate back home with a family or with authorities. The police, the Mexican authorities, the Mexican police in the area are well equipped to deal with these types of situations. And so I believe that they were very helpful in this incident. And so Belizeans should feel a sense of trust that they can contact the crime unit in these municipalities and for them to look at it. Also, we have an honorary council in Chetumal. And so you can have representation. You don't have to feel as if though you're alone when these incidents occur.
Over the recent long weekend, approximately 2,600 Belizean nationals traveled into Mexico, either for leisure or medical services, and among those visitors was a Corozal woman and her daughters who experienced a troubling encounter after leaving a store in Chetumal. The woman reported being approached and surrounded by several men who identified themselves as police officers, although they were dressed in plain clothes. The men alleged there was an issue with her vehicle and requested she accompany them to the public prosecutor's office. Despite presenting identification, the woman remained skeptical about its legitimacy. In response, she reached out to the Belizean Honorary Council in Chetumal, who promptly arrived and accompanied her to the relevant authorities. Upon investigation, officials found an irregularity with the vehicle's VIN number, which led the vehicle theft unit to launch a probe.
But what they were saying was that there was an issue with the vehicle, and they were basically saying that this individual was not the owner of the vehicle, although it was licensed and insured in Belize. And so they requested that she accompany them to the Fiscalia. By this time, she had already contacted the Honorary Council in Chetumal, who she knew, and he promptly was on the scene when I was made aware of the situation and I placed a call. He was already there and he was accompanying them to the Fiscalia, where they were going to run other checks on the vehicle. What transpired and what he reported back, what the Honorary Council in Chetumal reported back to me, was that there was an anomaly. There was something different about the VIN number, that there were either different VIN numbers or that the VIN numbers was adjusted. And so that prompted the vehicle theft unit on that side of the border to do an investigation. We really don't know if it was a GPS signal that was sent out or whatever the case may have been. But they did continue their investigation, and the young lady was allowed to come back home with the vehicle because they found that while the VIN number was altered, there was no case file as to theft or anything like that on the Mexican side of the border, and so they allowed her to leave.
The car was originally imported from Mexico years earlier and subsequently sold in Belize. Ambassador Arnold clarified that the council did not believe this incident was a deliberate attempt at theft or extortion.
From the report I received from the Honorary Council, when he got on the scene, he did not get the impression that it was an extortion attempt. Maybe that had happened initially. We can't say, and I would not go on record as saying that. However, I can report as to what happened since the Honorary Council got on the scene and to what transpired the hour or the hour and a half after that. Again, I know that it must have been a very harrowing situation. Lamentably, I wouldn't want any Belizeans to go through that type of incident However, we understand that there have been problems with vehicles in the past. I have had to deal with issues with vehicles that have been confiscated on the Mexican side that were reported stolen, and in those instances, they turned up stolen, and they ended up on the Belize side, and unsuspecting buyers purchased these vehicles because there's a customs entry. Everything is legit, and then when they go over to the Mexican side for vacation, that is when they run into issues.
Ambassador Arnold strongly advised travelers to seek assistance from embassy or consular representatives if they find themselves in suspicious or uncertain situations while abroad. Authorities are investigating the death of an elderly American man whose body was discovered aboard a drifting catamaran off the coast of Belize on Wednesday morning. Reports indicate that at around 8:30 this morning, the Belize Coast Guard received information from a passing cruise ship about a catamaran drifting at sea approximately 60 miles offshore from Belize City and about 8 miles off the North Channel near Key Cocker. Cruise ship personnel reportedly stopped to render assistance after encountering an elderly American woman aboard the vessel. The woman told them that her husband had suffered a heart attack and died the previous morning while they were at sea. The Belize rescue team responded to the report and located the vessel drifting towards the Belizean coastline. Upon boarding the catamaran, rescuers found the body of an elderly man who appeared to be deceased. Authorities also reported observing blood inside the vessel. The Belize Coast Guard has since been assisting in bringing the catamaran ashore. The vessel is expected to be taken to Key Cocker Village, where authorities will carry out further investigation. At this time, the identities of the deceased man and the surviving woman have not been officially confirmed. Personnel from the Criminal Investigation Branch, Special Branch, and Scenes of Crime are expected to examine the vessel once it arrives on the island. Authorities are yet to issue an official report on the matter, and investigations into the circumstances surrounding the man's death remain ongoing. Government has begun the complete rehabilitation of the George Price Highway, one of the country's most important transportation corridors. In his presentation of the 2026-2027 budget yesterday, Prime Minister John Bruseno gave an update on the project, which is geared at improving safety, drainage, and traffic capacity along the heavily traveled route from Belmopan to Belize City Pound Yard. The works are being carried out in multiple phases and will include new pavement, wider lanes, improved drainage systems, and upgraded bridges.
Madam Speaker, as we all know, George Price Highway is the most trafficked highway in the country. The upgrading of this highway was identified under the National Transportation Master Plan as the #1 priority, particularly the segment between Belize City and Belmopan, which has not seen any major improvements since the early 1980s. This project to upgrade the highway is potentially the largest ever carried out by the government of Belize and the Ministry of Infrastructure Development. It is divided in 3 road segments as follows. Upgrading Belize City to Hattieville. Lot 1 is being executed with support from a $34.5 million loan agreement with the Caribbean Development Bank. Works include the complete rehabilitation and upgrading of 15 miles of the George Price Highway between Pong Yard Bridge and Hattieville. This segment has been put to international tendering and bids are currently being evaluated. It is expected that we will commence the civil works as soon as April of this year.
Construction on La Democracia to Belmopan section began in January 2026 and is expected to take approximately 30 months to complete.
Lot number 2, Hattieville La Democracia. This 15-mile road segment, for which government has sent official requests to the OPEC fund to join in financing this key road transport segment, will include the replacement of Colonel English Bridge. This is estimated at $60 million. Lot 3, La Democracia to Belmopan. The upgrading of George Price Highway between Democracia and Belmopan, these works are being funded by the government of Belize and a loan agreement with the Kuwait Fund for Arab Economic Development, KFED, for $13 million US. KFED has confirmed its commitment to sign a second loan, which will cover the remaining cost of $56.1 million Belize dollars. Works including upgrading 29 kilometers of George Price Highway, 18 miles, to international standards. A new bridge will be constructed at Mount Pleasant Creek, and major intersections will be incorporated, including a roundabout intersection with George Price Boulevard and a more channelized intersection for the new hospital site.
The broader project, which involves financing from international development partners, have been described by government as one of the largest infrastructure investments ever undertaken in Belize. The protracted dispute over the Sapo de la Keys is approaching a critical juncture as the International Court of Justice, ICJ, announced it will issue a ruling on Guatemala's request to intervene in the ongoing Belize-Honduras sovereignty case on March 19, 2026. The conflict began in 2022 when Belize filed a case against Honduras after bilateral negotiations failed to settle Honduras' territorial claim, which is based on provisions in its 1982 constitution. Despite the dispute, Belize has maintained control over the islands for many decades. Guatemala entered the dispute at the close of 2023, asserting that any decision by the ICJ could affect its own long-standing territorial and maritime claims against Belize, which are being addressed in a separate ICJ proceeding. Guatemala maintains that it is not asserting a new claim, but is merely safeguarding its existing legal rights. While Belize welcomed Guatemala's participation, suggesting that joint proceedings could lead to a comprehensive and final resolution of all territorial issues, Honduras criticized the move. Honduras accused Guatemala of abusing the intervention process and urged the ICJ to deny the request. The forthcoming ICJ ruling will be pivotal in determining the future course of this complex territorial conflict in the region. Coming up next, PUC confirms the market dominance of Belize Telemedia Limited in telecommunications sector and announces regulatory actions to ensure fair competition. Stay tuned.
The Orange Walk Town Council is inviting applications from suitably qualified and motivated individuals to fill 5 garbage fee collector positions within our revenue department. Minimum requirements: high school diploma, friendly and people-oriented personality, tech-savvy, must own reliable transportation, preferably a motorcycle, honest and dependable. Interested applicants are asked to submit the following documents: application letter, copy of high school diploma, valid social security card, 2 character references. Applications must be submitted in person to the Orange Walk Town Council office by February 20th, 2026. Join our team and contribute to keeping Orange Walk clean and organized.
From whiskeys and wines to elegantly crafted cocktails, paired with charcuterie boards and perfectly seasoned steak bites, and much more. Perfect for celebrations, quiet nights, and every special occasion in between. 7 Notes Wine and Spirits, where every sip hits the right note.
The Civil Registry Department and Vital Statistics Unit provides comprehensive information services to assist citizens in obtaining official documentation related to key life events. You can apply for birth, death, marriage, adoption, or deed poll certificates for records that have already been registered. You can also request tailored information extracts or certified copies of documents about specific life events. All vital statistics information services are available through the new Civil Registry and Vital Statistics System, CRVS. You can complete all services online from the comfort of your own home, or if you prefer face-to-face interaction or need additional support, you can visit their nearest office to complete any service. The new CRVS, digitally connecting citizens to all vital statistics services. Visit crvs.gov.bz today to access our services.
At its launch in 2022-2023 academic year, the program supported 947 students across 4 secondary high schools. And I think we started off in the south side of Belize City. In the 2026-2027 fiscal period, the Education Upliftment Project will expand to 27 secondary schools, reaching over 40,000 students. These numbers indicate an increase of more than 13,000 beneficiaries, representing growth of over 1,000% in less than 4 years. In 2026-2027, 100% of students enrolled in government secondary schools nationwide will attend school for free. Over 60% of all secondary school students in Belize, 60% of all students in Belize will benefit from free education, providing significant financial relief to more than 8,500 families.
When speed matters, every second counts. Get ahead with ExpressNet. Fast, reliable, ready when you are.
Primera llegada con peligro por parte de Pot. Vemos la repetición. Llegan los linderos del área. La número 7 llegó con todo Pot. Estamos en vivo, en directo a través del canal 53 de Centaur. Izquierda viene cámara. El número 7 saca el disparo largo. El disparo de cámara.
Nosotros somos los campeones, estamos listos para National.
Prime Minister John Briceño yesterday also announced that the recent equity sales of shares in Hydro Belize Limited has been oversubscribed, reflecting strong interest from Belizean investors. The share offer followed the government's acquisition of the former Fortis Belize Limited, with shares made available to Belizeans and local institutions as part of the divestment process. According to the Prime Minister, approximately 2,000 Belizeans and several institutions subscribed to the share offering before it closed in January.
Back in October of last year, I ask this Honorable House to authorize the purchase of the 3 hydroelectric facilities, Moyehon, Chaleo, and Vaca plants, then owned and operated by Fortis Inc. of Canada. This House gave its approval for the acquisition, along with the consent to raise the necessary financing by way of government treasury notes. I gave an assurance that following the acquisition, government would immediately divest shares into in the company and would recoup the entirety of the purchase price. I am pleased to report that government's share offer in the new Hydro Belize Limited was oversubscribed at the closing date of 20th January 2026. About 2,000 Belizeans also put in their money and invested in Belize by buying these shares. Applications which were paid up total over 4,452,000 shares. The equity sale generated $129.1 million plus $5.7 million for additional shares to SSB. Total proceeds from equity sale therefore amount to $134.8 million. Bond offering expected to raise $100 million to cover the buyback from government of the remaining shares. These shares will then be cancelled. The purpose of these bonds, in addition to allowing government to recoup the balance of the purchase price paid for the acquisition, allows institutional investors, such as Social Security, credit unions and banks, to buy long-term debt instrument. Once this process is complete and the new board is in place, government would have fulfilled its commitments to acquire and divest this critical utility company, all done in less than 1 year. Belize would have secured for more than 2,000 local shareholders the source of some 30% of the country's power generation.
The Prime Minister described the response to the share offer as a strong indication of Belizeans' willingness to invest in national assets and participate in the country's economic development. The long-awaited Port of Belize modernization project is expected to commence this year following the government's repurchase of the port in 2023. During his budget presentation today, Prime Minister John Briceño told the House of Representatives that the $450 million redevelopment project will transform the country's cargo and cruise tourism operations. The project will upgrade the Port Loyola facility in Belize City, improving cargo handling capacity and efficiency while supporting the growth of cruise tourism.
Is the $450 million upgrading of the Port of Belize at Port Loyola in Belize City, which persists as a high priority project, critical for trade and for tourism. Minister Oshade, smile back there. From Port Loyola. Here be the man. Since this decisive repurchase of the port by government in December of 2023, the management of the port, and more recently, a special project execution unit led by Dr. Gilbert Canton, has been working non-stop for us to complete a proper master plan and subsequently to prepare the appropriate environmental and social impact assessment plan. One of the foremost port consultants in the world, the firm of Moffitt and Nichols, has been supporting the planning process. I'm pleased to report that the ESIA blueprint has now been submitted to the Department of the environment for consideration. The Port of Belize project would bring a historic transformation to the country's central marine navigational channel, the Belize City Harbor, the cargo port, the cruise tourism sector, and most importantly, to the Port Loyola community. The entire Belize City, you're right. The entire Belize City, the entire Belize district is going to benefit from this project. But I'm sure that the honorable member from Port Loyola will want to say we have to claim it first because it's in my constituency. Right, member from Port Loyola? For importers and exporters alike, and for all Belizean consumers, the new port facilities would mean faster and cheaper fishing arrangements. For port stakeholders, including the stevedores, the upgrading will deliver far better working conditions and a long-term job security. For cruise tourism, landside berthing will position Belize as a major beneficiary of surging cruise tourism flows and increased passenger spending in the Western Caribbean corridor. And most importantly, the improvements to the marine access channel and the Belize City Harbor will be achieved with a program of works that actually upgrades coastal protection and safeguards Belize's marine integrity.
Government has already completed a master plan and established a dedicated project execution unit to oversee the development. Belize is taking a significant step towards strengthening science and technology education through a new partnership aimed at expanding robotics and digital skills training for students nationwide. The initiative brings together the Ministry of E-Governance Belize, the Robotics Federation of Belize, and U.S.-based educational technology company VEX Robotics to advance STEM and robotics education across the country. The collaboration is designed to provide students with hands-on learning opportunities in engineering, computing, and cybernetics while encouraging innovation and problem solving.
What we're doing is working with the Ministry of E-Governance and the digital connect centers that were installed across the nation. We have 14 learning hubs that we will be getting VEX platforms to each of these hubs to be able to train students, train champions of robotics and digital learning through all of the VEX platforms. So the Federation is working as a training partner with the Ministry of E-Governance. Ministry of E-Governance has 14 digital connect centers. So we will be sharing our training capacity. They will be providing the robots, and then hopefully the schools in the digital connect center vicinities, communities will be sending folks over to learn. So weekends, we will be moving around the country, training different champions to then impart it as a ripple effect to learn about VEX platforms through educational application. CTE work cells, competition bots, all of the fun things that you saw here today.
President of the Robotics Federation of Belize, Jamie Asher, notes that the partnership marks a major milestone for robotics education in Belize. Asher explained that by working with international partners like VEX Robotics, local educators and students will gain access to modern tools, competitions, and training that can inspire creativity and innovation.
To do is be able to eventually work with the Ministry of Education, but also with Ministry of Labor to be able to translate our skills into a workforce skills transcript. So there are a lot of students that get things in another way outside the traditional academic platforms. So what we want to be able to do is to be able to facilitate all our participants with a transcript that shows what skills they're able to do. That way, when they do apply for a job, they could have an additional transcript that speaks to what they can do. So we all know that one coworker who for example, is a cameraman, but also makes a mean cheesecake. So might be Marisol makes a nice quilt, or you're able to sew, embroider. Everybody has additional skills. What we want to do is be able to capture and provide safety nets for young people who are naturally good at the tech, but don't necessarily have the skills or the way to put that on paper. So this is why it is outside of the traditional academic. So it won't look like English, math, but it would look like coding and working with real world problems to be able to then apply. So I don't know if you're old enough to know MacGyver, but I grew up on MacGyver. I see it making a comeback nowadays, so very good. But MacGyver was one of the champions of the 90s that taught us we just have to think a little bit, use that critical thinking, and put solutions in place using what's around us. And if we can put platforms like VEX into the hands of our young people, like the PM said, we will be amazed at what they can do, because Belizean students never disappoint. What are
Through the initiative, schools and youth programs across Belize are expected to gain increased access to robotics kits, training resources, and competitive opportunities that will help nurture the next generation of engineers, programmers, and technology leaders?
Well, right now we're working with high schoolers, so anywhere as young as 12 up to 17, 18. There are certain components that require a little bit of endurance in terms of the resilience. And we don't want to disenfranchise the young people, but we need to be able to build up that capacity in our young people. And then, yes, we will be going younger. But for right now, high school age. Yes, everything is free, as these centers are. So I don't know how much familiarity you have with Digital Connect centers, but this is the Fort George Digital Connect Center. And when this was inaugurated, we had all of these devices made available to the residents of Fort George. So you come here, we have trainings. So we already did a couple trainings in terms of learning how to create resumes, learning how to create social media accounts. We did training with coding and graphic design with the ministry. So time to time, we put out these publications that we have trainings, and then folks come here free of charge, access the facilities, and then they get to leave with skills.
At the official launch event, Prime Minister John Briceño met with several young innovators who demonstrated their robotics projects and shared their enthusiasm for the growing opportunities in the field. Speaking at the event, the Prime Minister highlighted the importance of preparing Belize's youth for a technology-driven future and emphasized that initiatives that will help equip students with the skills needed to compete in the global digital economy. The Public Utilities Commission, PUC, has concluded its extensive public consultation on market dominance in the telecommunications sector, issuing a definitive final determination under Section 42 of the Belize Telecommunications Act. The process, which began on February 2nd, 2026, included comprehensive stakeholder feedback, affirming the PUC's initial market analysis and underscoring Belize Telemedia Limited's BTL dominant position across multiple telecommunications markets. The PUC's finding revealed that BTL holds a commanding lead in both retail and wholesale telecommunications services throughout Belize. Specifically, BTL dominates in retail fixed voice, mobile telecommunications, fixed broadband internet access, toll-free and inbound services, corporate messaging, international roaming, and a broad range of wholesale services including call termination, origination, conveyance, and international connectivity. SpeedNet Communications Limited SCL was identified as dominant solely in the wholesale call termination market. The PUC emphasized that recognizing market dominance is critical to ensuring the telecommunications sector operates in alignment with the Belize Telecommunication Act's objectives. These include fostering effective competition, protecting consumer and users, and encouraging the orderly growth of telecommunications infrastructure. Following the determination, the PUC announced plans to implement regulatory remedies aimed at maintaining a competitive, transparent, and consumer-friendly telecommunications environment. Among the key measures are transparency, non-discrimination, cost-based pricing, access to infrastructure, service quality, and compliance and oversight. The PUC's final determination, along with all public submissions received during the consultation, is publicly accessible on the official PUC website at puc.bz. And there is more news after the break. Stay tuned.
This budget allocates $57 million to deepen NHI's impact. Our focus will be twofold. First, we're expanding NHI coverage to include the entire Kaya district. So we're finally offering services to 325,000 persons countrywide. Second, we are allocating significant resources to strengthen the supply side because a promise of care is empty without the infrastructure to deliver it. We are partnering with the Ministry of Health and Wellness to upgrade polyclinics in key districts and, crucially, to address the human resource gap.
From whiskeys and wines to elegantly crafted cocktails, paired with charcuterie boards and perfectly seasoned steak bites, and much more. Perfect for celebrations, quiet nights, and every special occasion in between. 7 Notes Wine and Spirits, where every sip hits the right note.
The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations, FAO, concluded the 39th session of the FAO Regional Conference for Latin America and the Caribbean, LARS 39, which brought together representatives from countries across the region in Brasilia from March 2nd to March 9th to define priorities and strategic orientations that will guide the organization's work during the 2026-2027 biennium. During 5 days of deliberations, member states examined the main challenges facing agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean, including the persistence of hunger and all forms of malnutrition, growing vulnerability to climate change, increased pressure on natural resources such as water, soils, and forests, and the need to expand public and private investment in the sector. Participating in the ministerial roundtable on driving agri-food systems transformation, key triggers and strategies for transforming agri-food systems in Latin America and the Caribbean, Minister of Agriculture, Food Security and New Growth Industries, Honorable Rodwell Ferguson, underscored the urgency of accelerating innovation and resilience measures in the face of mounting climate and production risk. Referencing Belize's national experience, Minister Ferguson pointed to ongoing threats affecting sugarcane, banana, and citrus production, while highlighting the importance of technical cooperation and coordinated support from regional international partners to address emerging plant diseases and production risk. The conference also highlighted the fundamental role of climate action, sustainable natural resource management, and the One Health approach in ensuring food security and nutrition for populations. With the adoption of the final report, FAO and the countries of Latin America and the Caribbean now move towards implementing the agreed priorities aimed at strengthening food security and nutrition, promoting innovation, mobilizing investment, and reinforcing the resilience of the region's agri-food systems. Belize will host a major regional conference later this month that will bring together utility professionals from across the region to discuss the future of workplace engagement, communication, and customer service in the energy sector. The 2026 Human Resource, Corporate Communications, and Customer Service Conference is being organized by the Caribbean Electric Utility Services Corporation in collaboration with Belize Electricity Limited. The event is scheduled to take place from March 22nd to the 25th and will be held under the theme Aligning Purpose for Authentic Engagement and Impact. According to organizers, the conference will attract representatives from more than 20 electric utility companies throughout the Caribbean. The gathering aims to provide a platform for industry professionals to address emerging challenges and explore practical solutions to workplace culture, staff motivation, and effective communication with customers. The four-day conference will feature keynote presentations from regional and international experts, as well as panel discussions and interactive workshops designed to highlight innovative strategies and best practices within the utility sector. In addition, the formal sessions, the agenda also includes networking opportunities, allowing participants from different countries and organizations to build professional relationships, exchange ideas, and share experiences that could strengthen operations across the region's energy industry. Organizers say the event is expected to strengthen collaboration among Caribbean utilities while encouraging new approaches to employee engagement and customer relations in an evolving energy landscape. And that's the news. We invite you to join us for another newscast on Thursday, March 12th, here on CTV3 News and Fiesta FM 106.7. Remember that to read a text version of the news, you can visit our website at CTV3BelizeNews.com. You can also log on to our Facebook page for current stories at Facebook.com/CTV3BelizeNews or our YouTube channel at CTV3 News BZ. From all of us here at CTV3, thank you for watching and listening. Good night.